Welcome back to Andersen Acres. You know, I think there's a bit of a myth floating around about farming and homesteading. This idea that a real farmer or homesteader is just some rugged individual who does everything alone, just them, their land, and maybe a slightly judgmental chicken watching from the fence post. And sure, that makes for a great story. But is it real life? That's not just unrealistic, it's a fast track to burnout. So today I wanted to talk about something that doesn't always get enough attention in the farming world: community. Not as a nice to have or an optional extra, but as the secret ingredient that makes this whole lifestyle sustainable. Because here's the truth: no farm, no matter how big or small, is truly self-sufficient. And that's not a failure. That's just reality. Somewhere along the way, we all got sold this idea that the real deal homesteader wakes up and milks the goats and collects the eggs and repairs the fence and plows the garden and makes cheese and cans tomatoes and shears the sheep and spins the yarn and bakes the bread all before lunch. And they do it all without help, smiling the whole way, while somehow wearing clean overalls. Spoiler, nothing's ever clean. So let me tell you, the folks you see online who seem to be doing everything alone, they've got help. Maybe it's a spouse or kids or parents. Maybe it's neighbors. Maybe it's church groups, or even the one guy down the road who has a tractor, then he really loves to use his tractor. And he'll do anything with his tractor. Doesn't matter where. You ask him to do tractor stuff, and he does tractor stuff. We have a guy like that way. Tractor stuff, right up his alley. A lot of communities have a tractor dude. Find the tractor dude in your community. He's useful. It's not a weakness to rely on people. It's not less authentic. In fact, historically, farming has always been community-based. We just forget that because social media likes a good self-made, independent story. But let's be practical for a second. On a hobby farm or a homestead, you will have days when you are sick, when you are injured, where you are swamped with other tasks, or just plain out of daylight hours. And animals, they don't wait. They don't just hang on. They don't just go, "Oh, you're not feeling well? No problem, I'll just feed myself today." So having a community that you can rely on means you have a neighbor who can throw some hay into the pen when you're stuck in town. It means someone who knows how to run your well pump if it stops working for you while you're away for the evening. It means friends who can load in an animal into a trailer in an emergency so you can get to the vet. And it means people you can swap tools with instead of having to buy everything and having to pay a pretty penny every weekend just for the project you only want to do once. So all of these things matter. And it works the other way around. If you want to be able to rely on people, you have to be the person others can rely on sometimes. And that's where the real magic happens. Helping each other builds trust, friendships, and resilience. So I'll give you an example. When the temperature dropped last winter and a neighbor's line froze, they could have spent all day panicking. They could have spent all day trying to find a plumber on Christmas Eve who was willing to come out. They could have done that. Instead, they called on the two neighbors they knew who knew plumbing. One brought extra buckets, the other brought a heater, and they both brought their respective tools. And by afternoon, by Christmas Eve dinner, they were back in business. That's how fast it happened. We had one person from our household knew what they were doing, and one person from the household just across the way there knew what they were doing, and off they went to give a hand. Because finding a plumber on Christmas Eve isn't that easy. Okay, temperatures plummeted, water line froze, they needed help, they asked for it, they got it. Okay? Another time, our hay delivery, it was us. We needed help. Our hay delivery got caught up in a flash flood. So he wasn't going to be able to make it. There was nothing wrong with the hay. It's just he couldn't get here because of flash flooding. So guy down the road brought us a couple of bales to tide us over. Well, a few months later, they needed a little help moving a fence line, and so we went and helped. But you have to be willing to do the helping if you want the help. Okay? That's how it works. It's a two-way street. If you want a community that helps you, you need to be willing to help your community. If you're new to hobby farming, you might be thinking, well, that's great for you, but I don't know anyone. That's fair. Community doesn't appear out of nowhere. You have to grow it, just like you grow your garden. So there are a few places you can start. If you're just getting into hobby farming and you feel kind of isolated in your community, it's time to reach out. It's time to get to know people. First, check out local farmers markets. This is an excellent resource. Chat with vendors, especially the ones selling products similar to what you raise. So if you see someone who sells eggs and you raise chickens, strike up a convo. You also want to start talking to people at the feed store. Those little conversations at the counter can turn into connections. And Facebook groups for your area are also a great resource. Yes, I know there are some dweebs. I was going to say something else. Family-friendly channel. But yes, there are some dweebs in your local Facebook group, I know. But there's also good, genuine people who are willing to help. And I'm not just talking farming groups. Local swap meets, local swap pages, and community pages have a host of people who are willing to help, if you're willing to help in return. And check agricultural fairs and events. These are great for meeting like-minded folks in person. The key is to show up and offer help, even before you need it. People remember when you've been there for them, and they're more willing to be there for you. If you're not willing to be there for other people, if you want people to help you, but you don't ever want to have to put in the effort for community, then you're not going to have a community. To be in a village, you have to be willing to be a villager. So you need to start participating if you want that sense of community. And beyond the practical stuff, beyond the, oh, my cows got out and I need some help getting them home, beyond that, community makes farm life a whole lot less lonely. Farming can be isolating, especially if you're in a rural area. Having people to celebrate wins with, or just be sad during a week of rain and a week of my goat died, and all of that makes the hard days lighter and the good days even better. And if you've ever lost an animal or had a crop fail, you know how much it means to have someone who gets it. You can send them a message and feel heard, feel understood. And that person might drop off some cookies or just stand there with you in the barn saying, yeah, this sucks. It makes a difference. But again, you have to be willing to be the one they can reach out to in hard times too. You can't just pretend it doesn't exist. If you want to be in a community, be part of that community. So if you're just starting out, or even if you've been at this for years, but you tend to go it alone, I hope this encourages you to invest in your community to come together, not as a backup plan, but as a part of your farm's foundation. Because the truth is, nobody does this alone. And that's not a flaw in the system. That is the system. Reach out, connect, inspire, and be inspired. That's about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. Have you had a time when your farm community came through to help you, or when you helped out someone else? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Thanks for spending time with me today, and we'll see you tomorrow.